The first time I noticed my CEO watching me, I thought my career was over. It was a cold Monday morning, the kind of morning when the office felt heavier than usual. My hands were trembling slightly as I walked past the glass walls of the executive floor, carrying a stack of reports that had taken me 3 sleepless nights to complete. I glanced up for just a moment, and there she was, standing silently behind the glass door of her office, her sharp eyes fixed directly on me. She wasn't smiling. She wasn't speaking. She was simply watching. In that instant, a single thought crashed into my mind like thunder. She wants me gone. Before we begin the story, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and unexpected turns in life, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who loves emotional stories, and subscribe to the channel for more heartfelt journeys like this one. Your support truly means a lot. My name is Daniel Carter, and at that time, I was just another low-level analyst in a massive corporate tower that barely noticed people like me. The company was known for its brutal expectations and quiet layoffs. One mistake could erase years of effort. And unfortunately for me, mistakes had been piling up. Not because I was careless, but because life outside the office had become a storm I could barely survive. My father had fallen sick the year before, leaving me responsible for hospital bills that felt bigger than the city skyline. My younger sister was still in college, and every month I had to choose between paying rent, paying tuition, or buying groceries. Sleep became a luxury I rarely touched. But none of that mattered to the corporate world. All that mattered were numbers, deadlines, and performance reports. And my CEO, Elena Whitmore, was known as the most intimidating leader in the entire industry. She had built the company from the ground up, turning it into a billion-dollar empire before most executives even reached her age. People whispered about her in the hallways like she was a storm you didn't want to stand under. Brilliant. Cold. Unforgiving. So when I started noticing her watching me more often, my anxiety grew heavier each day. It happened during meetings when I presented data. It happened in the cafeteria when I tried to eat lunch quickly before rushing back to work. Sometimes I would feel a strange sensation, like someone was observing me from across the room, and when I looked up, there she was again. Silent. Focused. Watching. Weeks passed like this. And every time it happened, my stomach twisted with dread. I began imagining the inevitable conversation where HR would call me into a small room, close the door, and slide a termination letter across the table. The fear followed me everywhere. At night, I stared at the ceiling of my tiny apartment, wondering what would happen if I lost this job. The rent was already overdue. My father's treatment was ongoing. One lost paycheck could collapse everything I had been desperately trying to hold together. Still, I pushed myself harder. I stayed later than anyone else. I volunteered for projects others avoided. I skipped meals and breaks, telling myself that if I worked enough, maybe I could escape the invisible target on my back. But something strange started happening. Instead of criticism, my reports began getting approved faster. Instead of being excluded from meetings, I started receiving invitations to bigger strategy discussions. It didn't make sense. Yet the watching continued. One evening, long after most employees had gone home, I was still sitting at my desk surrounded by glowing computer screens and half-finished spreadsheets. My head throbbed from exhaustion. As I rubbed my eyes, I felt that same familiar sensation again. Someone watching. Slowly, I turned my chair toward the hallway. And there she was. Elena Whitmore. Standing near the end of the corridor, her arms crossed lightly as she looked directly at me. For a moment, neither of us moved. My heart pounded like a drum. Was this it? Was this the moment everything ended? But instead of calling me over, she simply gave a small nod and walked away without a word. That moment confused me more than anything else. Why would the CEO of a billion-dollar company spend time observing a struggling analyst who barely existed in the company hierarchy? Months continued to pass. Life didn't get easier. My father's condition worsened, forcing me to visit the hospital almost every night. The fluorescent lights of hospital hallways became as familiar as the lights of my office. Some nights I slept in a chair beside his bed before rushing back to work at sunrise. I thought no one noticed. I thought I was invisible. But apparently, I was wrong. One rainy afternoon, everything changed. I was called to the executive floor. The message appeared in my inbox with only 3 words. CEO requests meeting. My chest tightened immediately. This was it. There was no other explanation. My hands felt numb as I rode the elevator upward, watching the floor numbers climb like a countdown. When the doors opened, the executive hallway felt quieter than usual, almost like the building itself was holding its breath. Her assistant guided me to the office door. And then I stepped inside. Elena Whitmore stood near the massive window overlooking the city skyline. The sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and crimson, making the entire room feel strangely cinematic. For several seconds, she said nothing. She simply looked at me with the same steady gaze I had seen for months. My throat tightened as I prepared for the worst. But what happened next shattered every expectation I had built in my mind. Instead of anger. Instead of criticism. Her voice was calm. And almost gentle. She told me she had been watching my work for a long time. At first, she noticed the small details, how carefully I analyzed problems, how I stayed late to fix mistakes others ignored, how I treated even junior staff with patience and respect. But what truly caught her attention wasn't my performance. It was my resilience. She explained that executives often see things employees believe are hidden. She had seen the hospital visits. She had seen the late-night work hours after everyone left. She had seen the quiet exhaustion I tried to hide behind polite smiles during meetings. And instead of seeing weakness, she saw strength. The room fell silent as her words slowly sank into my mind. For months, I believed she was searching for reasons to fire me. But in reality, she had been studying me. Learning who I was. And then she said something I never expected. She admitted that somewhere along the way, watching my determination had become something more personal. She admired it. Respected it. And slowly, without planning to, she had developed feelings she never expected to feel for someone inside her own company. The words felt unreal. Like a dream I might wake up from. My mind struggled to process what she was saying. The powerful CEO I feared for months wasn't watching me because she wanted me gone. She was watching because she believed in me. And because my story had touched her in a way she never predicted. That meeting lasted almost an hour. By the time I left the office, the sky outside had turned completely dark. But something inside my life had changed forever. Over the next few months, everything slowly began shifting. Not suddenly. Not magically. But steadily. She created opportunities for me to grow within the company, guiding my career in ways I had never imagined possible. Projects that once felt unreachable became responsibilities I was trusted to lead. And outside the office, she quietly helped connect my family with medical resources that eased the burden of my father's treatment. She never presented it as charity. She called it support. Because she believed no one should fight life's hardest battles alone. But the most important change wasn't professional success. It was the realization that sometimes the people we fear the most are the ones who secretly believe in us the strongest. Months later, my father's health improved. My sister graduated from college. And for the first time in years, life began to feel stable again. One evening, as I stood near the office windows looking at the city lights below, I remembered the moment months earlier when I first saw Elena watching me. Back then, I believed it was the beginning of the end. But in reality, it was the beginning of a completely different story. A story about resilience. about unexpected support, and about the strange, beautiful ways life connects people when they least expect it. If this story touched your heart even a little, take a moment to like the video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be. And before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. Leave a comment below and tell us, have you ever misunderstood someone's intentions, only to discover something completely different later? Your stories matter too. Because sometimes, the person silently watching from the distance isn't waiting for you to fail. They're waiting for the moment you realize your strength.